Hello and welcome to Just a Tiny Amount, your channel for all things stop motion. I'm Gordon Craig, and today I want to talk about the walk cycle. Now, I have some strong opinions as to when and even if a character should be seen walking, but I'm going to save those for another video. In this episode, I want to look at the techniques to show a real puppet moving through a real environment. So, in the words of Olivia Newton-John, let's get physical. Before I start, I just want to try something. Did that work? I'd like to say that that was a reminder that this is all an illusion, but to be honest, I just saw this guy doing it and thought it looked cool. In this week's Tutorial Tuesday, we'll be looking at how to make a stop-motion puppet perform a basic walk. When I say basic, I mean something that looks fairly realistic, like you would see on any street. Be advised though that all of the rules that I mention are there to be broken. You can add a lot of personality to a character by tweaking the way they walk. Hopefully after watching this video, you'll understand when to break these rules and what effect that will result in. If you get to the end of this video and you still want to know more, then I suggest getting the Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams. This is the best book on animation that I have read. Also, there are some great videos on YouTube, like this one, which will tell you all about the walk cycle. These tend to focus on hand-drawn animation, which is significantly different from stop motion in that it can employ techniques such as squash and stretch. Also, I find that hand-drawn animation tends to be more cartoony, with more exaggerated movements. Stop-motion animation is constrained by the physical proportions of the puppet. Because of the rigid armature, the legs stay the same length, and everything is subjected to the laws of physics, such as gravity. This isn't necessarily a problem. In fact, I often find that making a puppet walk a lot easier than making a drawn character walk, because it does a lot of the work for you. In this video, I'm going to try and keep things simple. For instance, when you are designing the walk for your character, you should consider all aspects of the puppet. How the arms and the hands and the head and the hair moves, as well as what the feet and legs are doing. To cover all of this would take way too long, so I'm going to ignore all of that and focus on the bottom half. The other way I'm going to keep things simple is by looking at only half the walk cycle. A full walk cycle is from when the legs are in one position all the way through to when they return to the same position. In this walk cycle, both feet will have moved both forwards and backwards. However, if you look at half a walk cycle, you would have one foot moving forward whilst the other foot moves backwards. The second half of the walk cycle would be exactly the same movements, but just swapped over. So what are these positions? If you film somebody walking with a purposeful stride at 24 frames per second, each foot will hit the floor every 12 frames, or half a second. If we then animate that on twos, then each foot is hitting the floor every 6 shots, because each shot lasts 2 frames. Because shot 1 and shot 6 are essentially the same contact position where the foot hits the floor, that means that half a walk cycle consists of 5 different positions. The key thing to remember is that walking is all about the transfer of weight. You put one foot down in front of you and then transfer your weight onto that. You then move your weight forward in front of that foot, and just as you're about to fall over, you bring the other foot forward and move the weight onto that. Then the whole thing just repeats. So shot 1 of the cycle is a transfer of weight onto the foot. The foot will normally hit the ground heel first, so the transfer of weight is rocking forward until the foot is flat on the floor. At the same time, the rear foot pushes forward and lifts off the ground. In this stripped back stop motion, you can see where the weight is supposed to be by which foot is tied down to the ground using the nut and bolt. Shot 5 is the contact position that we've already seen. This is when the front foot hits the ground and is about to have the weight transferred onto it. As most of the weight is still on the rear foot, it is still tied down to the stage. Although, as you can see, all of the weight has been moved forward to the toe, so it will be easy to push off in the next shot. Shot 3 is halfway through the step, and is often referred to as the passing position, namely because it is the point where the 2 legs cross. Up to this point, all of the weight has been on the front foot. It's been flat on the ground. After this point, the character is beginning to transfer its weight forward, so the weight will generally move onto the toes. This leaves shot 2 and 4, which are the in-betweens between these key positions. A lot of the subtleties about how a character walks can be introduced using these frames. For instance, on shot 2, if the character rises, then it looks as if they're gliding forward light as a feather. However, if they sink, then it looks as if they're trudging forward with steps as heavy as lead. Shot 4 is all about getting the rear foot out into position, ready to take the weight. Does this spring forward, or is it dragged along the floor? Okay, now that we know the positions, let's have a look at how to animate them. Now, assuming you're using a tie-down rig, the first thing you'll want to do is drill holes into your stage. These need to be spaced evenly, about 3 foot lengths apart. Obviously, this distance can change depending on how large a stride you want your character to take. The second thing I would do is place your character at the beginning and end of the walk and draw a line between the two. As the character will be moving forward at a constant speed, you can draw lines evenly separated along this, corresponding to the number of frames you're planning to shoot. For instance, if they're going to take 5 steps, each of 5 positions, then you need 25 frames. Remember, if you're starting and ending on contact positions, then you've got 1 extra position there, so you want 26. At this point, I should mention the rise and fall. Some people, when they walk, bob up and down like a yo-yo. Other people keep their heads perfectly level. Most of us will fall somewhere in between this. It is important to note where this rise and fall comes from. The character's highest point is normally around the passing position, where the leg is straight and practically vertical. The only way that the character could get higher was if they rise up onto their toes. Their lowest point is usually around the contact positions. If the character keeps their legs very straight, then the lowest point is when the feet are far apart. As the character moves forward, they pivot on their straight front leg and start to rise again. However, if the character bends their legs as they transfer their weight onto their front foot, then they'll dip down. Therefore, a character who rises and falls quite an extreme amount will have a very straight leg at the passing position and a bent knee when the weight is transferred. Conversely, somebody who stays very level as they walk will have a slightly bent knee throughout all of their steps. To animate a character walking, start off in the contact position. Then tie the front foot down to the stage. When you do this, make sure that the heel stays in the same position. This is the point that the character pivots around, and shouldn't slide forwards or backwards. You then want to change the position of the back ankle and knee, so it looks as if the character has pushed off from this foot. The toe should end up slightly forward from where it was on the ground. Adjust the knee of the front leg to get the height that is appropriate to your character's walk. When doing this, make sure the character's body moves 1 step along the line of constant speed. For the second position, decide how much you want to emphasize the character's weight. You do this by either making the puppet bend further into the knee if it's a heavy step, or straighten the leg if it's a lighter one. At the same time, start bringing the rear leg forward. Adjust the knee and the ankle to keep the foot very low, with the toe just missing the floor. Again, make sure the body is on the next step of the constant speed line. For the third, or passing position, straighten the front leg. You can decide whether or not to keep the heel on the floor, or raise it up slightly to give the step some more bounce. The rear leg should be passing the front leg on its way forward. As a rough guide, they should cross in 3 places. The rear leg's thigh should be in front, the shin should cross back behind, and then the foot should cross in front again. It's worth noting that the rear leg's thigh should swing forward through the whole step. Everything that goes on below its knee is essentially keeping the foot from hitting the floor. Again, remember to move the character's body 1 step forward along the line of constant speed. For the fourth position, what is mainly happening is the rear leg is now in front and getting ready to take the weight. It can do this with quite a large movement, flinging itself forward. The leg that was leading will be bending in the knee and leaning onto its toe, getting ready to transfer the weight forward. It should go without saying now that the body of the character moves 1 step along the line of constant speed. Finally, in step 5, the leg that used to be the rear leg is now almost straight and its heel has touched the ground. The leg that was leading bends its knee and toe to make this as gentle a landing as possible. And that's it really. The body carries on along the line of constant speed, and the legs just move underneath to make sure it doesn't fall. Once you can manage this walk, you can start adding in variations. For instance, if a character keeps its weight fully on its back foot for as long as possible, and only at the last minute transfers it onto the front foot, this gives a walk that is a bit like a sneak. In doing so, the body will stay very much behind the leading leg. On the other end of the spectrum, if a character's weight stays largely in front of the feet, this exaggerates the falling forward aspect of walking. The rear leg lags behind and only just gets into position to stop the character falling on its face. This gives the effect of the character being drunk or walking into a snowstorm. And there you have it. I hope this video has added something new to your understanding of the walk cycle. Please subscribe, like and share if you feel so inclined. This is just a tiny amount. I'm Gordon Craig, and I shall see you next week.